Before we get into today's story, make sure to hit that like button on this video so we can keep bringing you more. Subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment below to share your thoughts or your own experiences. Your support is what keeps these stories coming. A follower named Sarah sent me the story. When I was around 8 years old, I believe I saw my first ghost. My family had gone hiking in the Appalachian Mountains for a backcountry camping trip. I was terrified about sleeping in the woods near the top of a mountain, but my mother reassured me. "Animals are terrified of Daddy," she said teasingly as she held my hand. I trusted her, but I was still nervous. We hiked along the Appalachian Trail until my father decided it was time to stop and set up camp. We found a small clearing as the sun was beginning to set. I looked up at my mother and noticed she had grown pale, her grip tightening around my tiny hand. "Todd, can we set up somewhere else?" she asked, still clutching me. She wanted to avoid the unsettling feeling in those woods, and I felt it too. The clearing had a strange, ominous vibe. My father shook his head. "Honestly, babe, it's getting late. I'm not searching for firewood in the dark." I remember asking if we could go home, but eventually we stayed. After roasting hot dogs and marshmallows, we crawled into the 6-person tent my father had bought. He fell asleep within minutes, but my mother and I could not. "Emma, are you asleep?" she whispered. I lifted my head. "No, Mama, I'm scared. I can't sleep." "It's fine. We are safe inside the tent," she said softly, trying to comfort me. Eventually, I drifted off. When I woke in the early morning, I found my mother outside, sitting cross-legged on the ground, meditating with a cup of Earl Grey tea. She did this every morning. I tapped her on the shoulder. "Mama, can we take a walk?" She smiled and nodded. "Sure, but not too far. I don't want Daddy to worry." We walked near the campsite until suddenly she froze. I followed her gaze and saw a hazy figure leaning against a birch tree about 20 feet away. The shape of a man, pale gray, almost transparent. He seemed calm, not threatening, just solemn. He lifted his head and looked directly at us. I rubbed my eyes in disbelief, and in that moment, he vanished before us. My mother and I exchanged a look, both of us knowing we had seen the same thing. The presence had not felt dangerous, only sad, lingering quietly in the forest. After that day, I do not think I ever saw another ghost again, but I will never forget him. Thanks to Sarah for sharing this story. A follower named Daniel sent me this story. In the depth of my high school years, I actively participated in the basketball team and track events to maintain my stamina. I often visited an 11-mile hiking trail that meandered through the ominous hills looming outside my small, seemingly safe town where everyone knew everyone. Although not entirely secluded, the path carried an uncanny atmosphere, especially in the deeper stretches of the woods. There, the trail became rugged, tangled with gnarled tree roots that sprawled like serpents in every direction. For 3 uneventful years, the trail remained a familiar and secure escape. That is, until the day when darkness, both literal and figurative, descended upon me. Like countless times before, I parked my car on the lonely dirt road, a humble offshoot of the highway. I smoked a joint to calm my nerves, selected a playlist on my phone, and with earphones in place and a fresh piece of gum, I set off on the trail. I could not remember seeing anyone that afternoon. Although it was typical for the course to be sparsely populated at that hour, the isolation began to feel heavier with each step. Several minutes passed as I walked the crushed stone path before it gave way to wilderness. At the midpoint of the trail, an overwhelming sense of dread washed over me without any reason. Its icy grip coiled around my chest, but I pressed on. As the trail grew steeper, I slowed to a cautious walk and removed my earphones. The silence around me was unsettling. A haunting stillness filled the woods, and though coyotes or even bears might have been possible, the fear that consumed me felt far beyond natural predators. I remember a strange 30-second blur in my memory. Within the trees stood a figure. It was not an animal, not an apparition, but unmistakably human. A man. He was frozen in place at a 2 o'clock angle ahead of me, silently watching. His face was indistinct, and I instinctively averted my gaze, pretending not to see him. My body reacted on primal instinct, warning me to avoid his attention. Every nerve screamed at me to run. When I rounded a bend about 15 feet beyond him, I finally gave in. Adrenaline exploded through me, propelling me into a sprint faster than I thought possible. My knees shook under the force of my strides, and though I heard no footsteps behind me, I felt as if he was right there, a breath away. I did not stop until the trees broke and I saw the reassuring sight of my car. Panting and trembling, I turned back but saw no one. The figure had vanished, leaving only my racing thoughts and the conviction that someone had been there watching me. Maybe they had intended to strike, and I had stumbled into their plan. Some might dismiss this as the paranoia of a stoned teenager, but I had followed the same pre-run rituals for years, high or sober. This was different. I left that town long ago, but the memory still lingers. Even now, the dread of that day keeps me from retracing those steps. I sometimes wonder if other hikers on that trail have felt the same presence. But I never asked. I didn't want anyone to think I was crazy. Thanks to Daniel for sharing this story.
A follower named Ryan sent me this story. Late one night, my buddy and I went outside to smoke a bowl. This was back before it was illegal in Colorado, so you had to be sneaky about it. We went into the backyard and sat down. We had not even smoked yet when suddenly the gate leading out to the alley opened. What stepped through was some kind of little creature, like a cross between that elf from Harry Potter and Gollum from The Lord of the Rings, but far more realistic. It looked like it had a cloak or covering on, though I could not be sure. The moment I looked up, it saw us. As quickly as it had entered, it darted back into the alley with unnatural speed and silently shut the gate. It was not a long encounter, but it made me realize there is more out there than meets the eye, even in the city. Another time, while hiking deep in the backwoods of Ohio, I had gone 10 miles out to get away and light up. Weed was definitely not legal in Ohio back then. I had just sparked one and was enjoying the peace of nature when I heard something behind me. I turned and saw what looked like a 15-foot figure sweep from one tree to another. At first, I nearly lost it, but then I told myself maybe my eyes were playing tricks. Still, the feeling lingered. Moments later, I heard it again, a high-pitched whooping whistle. I turned and saw a tall, slender creature bouncing from tree to tree, making that eerie sound. I have seen drawings and depictions of Sasquatch, some tall and bulky, others more lean, but this one was different. It was not like Slender Man exactly, but it looked almost puppet-like, with long, dark draping that made it sway unnaturally. The way it moved was terrifying. I bolted out of those woods faster than I ever thought I could run. I have never seen anything like it since, but I know what I saw was real. If you ever find yourself in those Ohio backwoods, be careful. There are strange things out there that cannot be explained. Thanks to Ryan for sharing this story.
A follower named Jason sent me this story. I had always been drawn to the mystique and allure of the great outdoors, So when the opportunity arose for a day hike in the picturesque forests of Michigan with my friends, I could not resist. Little did I know this adventure would turn into a horrifying encounter with the legendary Michigan Dogman. The day began with clear skies and a gentle breeze rustling through the leaves. I arrived at the trailhead early, excited to embark on my solo hike. Eventually, I would meet up with my friends at the end, and we planned to have a little get-together. The trail meandered through dense forest, carpeted with a vibrant tapestry of fallen leaves. As I set off, the scent of pine filled the air, and the chorus of birds serenaded my steps. With each passing mile, the wilderness grew thicker around me. The sunlight struggled to penetrate the dense canopy, casting eerie shadows that danced along the forest floor. Yet an unexplainable unease began to creep over me, as if the very essence of the woods whispered a cautionary tale. Ignoring my mounting fear, I pressed forward, determined to conquer it. But as the hours wore on, the atmosphere grew increasingly oppressive. The silence was deafening, broken only by the occasional snap of twigs underfoot. Every rustle and whisper of wind seemed to echo with an unseen presence. Then a peculiar smell invaded my nostrils as I rounded a bend. It was a potent blend of wet fur and decaying leaves, tinged with a metallic tang. My heart quickened, and a chill ran down my spine. My instincts screamed danger, but curiosity pushed me to investigate. Branches crackled nearby, causing my pulse to race. I turned slowly, scanning the forest. There it stood, bathed in dappled sunlight, a creature unlike anything I had ever seen. Towering on two legs and covered in matted fur, it resembled a monstrous hybrid of a man and a beast. Its yellow eyes locked with mine, radiating a malevolence that chilled me to the core. Its snout curled into a sinister grin, revealing rows of gleaming, razor-sharp teeth. Fear paralyzed me as the realization sunk in. I had come face to face with the infamous Dogman. Time seemed to stop as I stood in a silent standoff with this creature, like a macabre survival dance. Every fiber of my being screamed at me to run, but deep down, I knew escape was futile. Its predatory gaze left no doubt that I was its prey. Suddenly, with lightning speed, the creature lunged toward me, claws outstretched, its bellowing growl piercing the forest silence. Instinct took over, and I dodged its initial attack, stumbling backward and scrambling for my life. But the Dogman was relentless, its pursuit fueled by an insatiable hunger for flesh. The chase tore through tangled underbrush and fallen logs. My heart pounded in my chest, each breath a gasp of terror. Panic gripped me as the realization struck that I was lost in this nightmarish forest, nothing more than a pawn in the Dogman's sadistic game. Just as exhaustion threatened to consume me, a glimmer of hope appeared. I stumbled upon a dilapidated cabin, barely standing amidst the wilderness, but still offering some protection. It was my last chance, a potential sanctuary against the Dogman's relentless pursuit. With a burst of adrenaline, I threw myself inside and slammed the door shut. The ancient wood creaked under the weight of my desperate refuge. I held my breath, praying the creature would not find me. Hours passed, each minute stretching into eternity. The forest grew silent outside. The air inside the cabin was heavy, thick with the smell of damp wood and my own fear. But there was no sign of the Dogman, at least not for now. As the night wore on, the moon cast an ethereal glow through the cracked windows. Fear consumed me until exhaustion finally pulled me into a restless sleep. When I awoke, sunlight bathed the cabin in a golden light. My heart raced as I gathered the courage to step outside. I opened the door with trembling hands, bracing for the worst.
But the dogman was nowhere to be seen. The forest stood silent and still, as though it had swallowed the horrors of the night.
Thanks for sticking around till the end. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to give the video a like and leave a comment with your thoughts. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a terrifying tale. See you in the next one.